Warning, this podcast may change the way you think about business, entrepreneurship, and money forever. The Conquistador Podcast was created for dreamers, entrepreneurs, and leaders who want to conquer their future. To be an epic entrepreneur, you must adopt the right mental paradigms as well as master the art of selling, marketing, and finance. Now, it's time to welcome two serial entrepreneurs, leaders, husbands, and fathers who are passionate about sharing the strategies that are helping them excel in life and in business. Here are Mauricio Garcia and Hubert Humphrey.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're having an awesome week. My name is Mauricio Garcia, and it is always my pleasure to have the opportunity to begin this podcast that, as you know, if you've been following us, we have the privilege to always be able to do this with my mentor, my friend, my partner, Mr. Hubert Humphrey, to whom I salute today. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Good to be with you. Hope you're doing
awesome.
well.
Doing excellent over here. Thank you. Excited for our topic today. You know, I've always thought that, or known that there's a difference between how billionaires think, how millionaires think, or how, I don't know if that's the right word, but 100,000 years, whatever, think. And, you know, it's why the success cycle topic that we've got today will probably clarify a lot of that. Because, you know, when we talk about success cycles, and before we actually started the podcast, you were mentioning a few things that were even off the notes of the things that I wanted to cover, but you were speaking about how there was a Socrates, Plato, Aristotle sort of teachings or a cycle. I don't even know what the right words to use here to describe that as being a cycle, as, you know, one set of information passing on to a second generation or third generation, that by the time it got to a fourth person, it exploded. It actually provoked the biggest conquering of land and minds the world had ever seen.
Right. And I think what you're referring to is I talked about is basically back, if you're studying the life of Alexander, you kind of learn all the things that created the mindset that caused him to go out and try to conquer the known world and pull that off and become known as Alexander the Great. But you look back, you look back as to what led up to that. It started with Socrates. Socrates way back was probably the most wise man in the world. He probably had more wisdom than anybody else in the known world out there at that time. In fact, all the principles upon which modern civilized democracies are built upon come from the teachings of Socrates. Mm-hmm. And he was teaching all that, and it was resisted by a lot of the people out there, but some of them started to catch it. And one of his students that really believed in him was Plato. And Plato took these teachings of Socrates and he chronicled them. He became a great writer, and he had the writings of Plato, and he reduced them to writing where they could be passed on, and he continued to teach them. And one of his students that really followed his readings and teachings was Aristotle. And Aristotle believed in him so much he wanted to keep passing on this great knowledge, to keep the great Greek philosophies and dream alive. He formed academies. In fact, he created the first academy. So we owe to Aristotle where we got the title academy. And so with an academy, he's going to teach more people. He's got a school by which he's teaching these principles and all the great Greek traditions. And at the same time, King Philip of Macedonia, who was trying to get all the Greek city-states together and had this goal of going out and conquering the world and trying to get the Greek power and image and prestige back. He didn't quite know how to pull it off, but his son, he was grooming him. And as a 14-year-old boy, he sends Alexander to one of Aristotle's academies. and he goes in and learns all these great Greek traditions and all the writings, and then he got to read the Iliad and the Odyssey, and he got to study all these great, not only the great principles, but he read about all these great heroes, Ulysses and Achilles and all these other great Greek heroes that they wrote about, and he dreamed of one day being famous like them and doing noble things like they did, and so it inspired him. So the message there is, if you can drive a leg 4 deep, if you can go from Socrates to Plato to Aristotle, you might find an Alexander and conquer the world. And I teach people in our business, when you recruit somebody, don't just think about the person you've recruited. Help them recruit people who recruit people who recruit people. Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, you might reach that guy that could conquer the business world. You never know. Somebody recruited some people who recruited some people who recruited some people. And most of my big superstars came because of going taprooting several deep down like the Socrates, Plato, Aristotle principle. So that's one way of looking at it. But another way of looking at it is the way I look at it in my business here. I go study big business people, and then I find out about what they studied. Then I find what they studied, and next thing you know, I've got 3 or 4 levels of that led to various people's successes, and I borrow that from them, and it helps me become successful. I take ownership of it. I assimilate it into my business DNA, and I go forward. I don't have many original thoughts at all. I used to try to be creative, and it cost me too much money, so I quit. I found that you're paid a lot more to imitate than create in the business. Just make sure you're imitating the right things, and then that builds up speed, and you can go forward here. So Alexander was just imitating what had come on for generations before him. That was that principle that we were talking about.
Very good. Well, that set the stage for what we're going to cover today, because these podcasts are made to be able to help the driven, determined dreamer out there have a higher chance of excelling in whatever it is that they're doing. And I have a list of things here. I'd like to go to cover each and every one of them by contrasting, what is the average entrepreneur's way of thinking versus how does a very successful entrepreneur thinks, which is in that paradigm shift. So when it comes to building, like, let's just say a sales organization, because I think any company that is out there who's going to have an impact has a sales organization. And the way you have here, the average success cycle, which is the average way of thinking, is product focus, drive sales. A lot of companies, a lot of people are focusing a lot on product sales, while you say, focus on your attitude, which drive the prospecting. Can you elaborate more on those different paradigms here?
Well, I talk about if you're going to build anything, you gotta get the attitude of that. Hey, I'm positive. I want to be a builder. I want to build something successful. I've got the attitude of I'm excited about the field I'm in. I'm excited about the products we market. I'm excited about the opportunity. My attitude is one of a can-do attitude, a positive attitude. So if I'm negative, I'm not going to attract any prospects. I'm not going to convert any prospects. So it all starts with you. Are you on fire? Is your vision properly stretched, or have you made a conversion from? I remember the poor old railroad conductor that I used to be, and then becoming a positive thinking railroad conductor positioned me to finally be magnetized enough for either some opportunity to pull me to it, or me to pull the opportunity to me. It's going to change my attitude. But I had to also change my paradigm for the attitude to do any good. And so all of a sudden, in the right paradigm, that allowed me now to start thinking of prospects, and start opening my mind up to prospects. In our business, most of our prospects are coming from the people that we recruit. We recruit a person, and they are a walking, talking prospect list. So we recruit a lot of prospects, and then then the whole cycle is that prospecting will drive the recruiting, and then the recruiting is going to drive the promotions of people fighting to go up the ladder.
Right.
And fighting for those promotions, they've got to hit a certain amount of requirements, and that's production. And then production, fighting for that, getting that production, it drives earnings, and then earnings drives great wealth, and then great wealth just gives you great power and leadership. So It's a cycle. It's a success cycle that you're talking about.
Right, but it's important to contrast that cycle, which you call the max out success cycle versus the average cycle, and I'd like to go one by one and go dive deeper into that the difference in the way of thinking in each one of them. So the next one basically is, sales drives average production. So most people that go in sales, just like I did when I first got into the insurance business, I was really just focused on getting the most amount of sales, obviously to earn the recognition on Monday morning about me driving the most sales. But you say prospecting is what should drive recruiting, and I know that we're speaking probably more specifically to a business model that you've built with A.L. Williams, WMA, now WFG, which is really it's focused in recruiting, because like you said, every recruit is also a consumer, not only a distribution channel, right, an outlet, but it's also a consumer. But this to generate the epiphanies necessary here on people who are listening to us today is, what's that difference in just focusing on sales versus focusing on recruiting?
Well, it depends upon it just depends upon what your ambition level is. If you're focusing on sales, you automatically have got some limit. I don't care how good of a salesman that you become, and in what industry you happen to be in, and what product you happen to be selling. There's only X amount of sales that you're going to be able to generate in a given day, given week, given month. And the more ambitious you are, the more aggressive you are, obviously you can sell more. And sometimes you're selling a bigger ticket item, which requires less sales because you're making more money per transaction. But you still got a cap on that. But if you happen to be in a model that allows recruiting, you're leveraging a whole lot more people's efforts, and you're overriding a lot more people's efforts. And I just learned a long time ago that multiplication is a whole lot faster than addition. And addition is what you're doing when you're doing just personal production, personal sales. And so I've always been one to just want to focus more on. I like to go where the odds are. I like to play where the odds are in my favor. I like to go where there's least resistance to in my path to success. And I know that if I'm in my business, for example, where we're trying to recruit, the millions and millions of people out there that we can see would be more excited about somebody coming to show them how to make money as opposed to coming to just sell them something to start with. Mm-hmm. And we found that if we lead with the bait of an opportunity, we get to see more people. And as we recruit them, those people also now become a client, because they were going to be a client anyway, but we just sort of aim at the heart instead of the head first. It just happens to be in our model. Some people don't have that model. But even at that, you got to have a good attitude to be magnetized and be able to influence people to find prospects, to see prospects, and then to convert the prospects into either a client if you're just in a linear business. But if you're in a model that's like ours, where it's more of a multiplication and geometric progression model, you want to convert those prospects into recruits / clients. We're going to sell who we recruit. We're going to sell who we don't recruit. All we do is just we get a lot more value for the action, for the activity. And if I've got to sit down and make a presentation to one person, and I'm going to come out of there with them buying a product, and I'm going to get a commission, and I'm on to the next one. And I could have sat down and chatted with them and got them excited about joining me and buying the product. Well, now I've greatly multiplied my efforts. Yeah. And if I keep replicating that over and over again, that one person I talk to might replicate into thousands of people. You know,
Yeah.
one little guy recruited me in financial services in A.L. Williams when it was just starting. One little guy, just not even knowing what he was doing, recruited me, and from recruiting Hubert Humphrey, instead of just selling, he came there to hopefully make a sale to me, but he ended up recruiting me, and
he got the commission.
He recruited me, got a commission, but from that now over 3 million people have come into my hierarchy over the last 35 to 40 years in various companies, because he didn't just sell me. I'll grant you, he accidentally recruited me. But whether he did it on purpose or accidentally, I got recruited in an opportunity, and I was much more valuable as a recruit than I was just as a limited client.
Yeah, I think anybody can see that, exactly. And therefore, most sales organizations probably are operating on what we call the average success cycle, which is, you've got a manager sometimes who's leading the team of people that are going out there and getting some sales. And you say, if you get the people to think as recruiters and builders, well, they're going to find a lot of people like Hubert that could bring dozens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and that would, as a result, get more sales overall. So you have something here to differentiate between, an average manager, or specifically the way it's written, it says average promotions build average managers, while, production or promotions drive production.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I'd like you to elaborate more on, the way that you promote. It does something in the psyche of people that operate in your world, in that way of thinking, where they're fighting for the promotions, and as they fight for those promotions on those guidelines, as those more production is generated than if you have just a regular sales team that is managed by one person. You know what I mean? Like there's a big difference between the two. But I'd like our listeners to differentiate the two type of organizations so that they can identify what paradigm they're operating under.
Well, most people that are in direct sales organizations, whether it's in financial services or not, are they're product driven, they're quota driven, they are territory driven. They've got a lot of little finite rules that they're operating by, mm-hmm. and whoever their manager is, while every sales company has a little incentives here, they'll have a recognition here or there. They're going to have a little trip here or there. Any sales company has has a little recognition and promotion, but in our business, it satisfies a basic need. Everybody, I found out a long time ago, people will fight more for recognition if it's done right than they will literally for money. But in our business, we get to play off of that and everybody wants to be significant. Everybody wants to rise up and do more. They'd like to be able to have a higher level of recognition in front of their peers. They'd love to be able to have a little higher contract level that goes with that. They want to do all that, but and at the same time, they want to make more money. They want to keep going and doing it. And then if they can get the people on their team harnessed up under them, fighting for their next promotion, well, then that's going to drive the bigger guy's promotion. And so, mm-hmm. and everybody's all sequenced together. And our system allows all the overrides to come off of all these people that you're recruiting and building up under you, which a guy in personal production. The one thing that a guy in personal production doesn't have, that we have, if you want to take one word, is overrides. And overrides are a powerful army. I was back in my day when I joined in January of '78, and the A.L. Williams business was just getting started. And from that little scratch start, in the 14 years I was there, this was back from January '78 till literally to 1990, early '91, I made almost $50 million in income, $33.7 million in commissions. Actually, it's all overrides. $250,000 came to me on personal commissions.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you do that writing term policies personally?
Well, I didn't do it.
But
I recruited.
overrides. You clarified.
I had overrides and built a large team of overrides. But at the same time, we had a system. We were in that kind of business. We recruited lots of people. We just had a different model of multiplication, and how you max out anything is you build a big army. Anyway, if you're going to go out and go to battle in a war, the person ultimately if you got a good core group of disciplined leaders, but you got a big 1 million man army, you got a better chance than the guy that's sitting over there with very few leaders and just a small army. He's going to get beat.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So the key is which model you want to be in to give you the most potential success, the most return on your effort. Since it's going to take time, effort, and energy to do either one, you got to determine: do I want to swap my time? Mm-hmm. Do I want to swap it for more, much more success, or do I want to swap it just for this smaller linear commissions? It comes down to what a person wants out of life, and a lot of times they never even know that the other exists. But I think when most people can have it side by side and they can see the difference, the smart ones are going to choose being able to build a team and draw overrides from it, especially nowadays when you can do it through technology, through social media, we build all across the country, all across the United States, Canada, Mexico, and you can, in our system, let you follow all that and override all that lineage that comes from you. You know, as you're Socrates and you start to build your own Plato's and Aristotle's and find your own little mini Alexanders all throughout there, you get to override all those people. That's the key.
Quick question. It is maybe a little bit kind of in parentheses here of what we're talking about. What would you say is the biggest misconception people make or leaders make about overrides? It sounds sometimes in theory, it sounds very sexy, right? Being able to generate the override, being able to make money of the efforts of other people. And what's the biggest misconception people have about that? Why do most people not say most people, those that have the opportunity that don't harness that, why do you think that is?
They just don't have their vision properly stretched. There's two things I found out a long time ago. If somebody doesn't buy your product, or they don't join in your business, or they don't do what you're doing, and let's say it's a really good idea, is they either don't believe you or they don't understand you. And so all you got to make sure that you are a believable person, and you can show them the power of the opportunity you're talking about. Preferably, if you are a do-it-first leader, you can show them the success that you have, the tracking that you're on track for success. And then as far as the understanding it, most people have just not taken the time to look at it. They'll jump to. They've never been trained to think about recruiting people or building teams. Most people have come out of a job background, an employee background, and very rarely is recruiting required in that world.
The one thing that helped me really get clarity on that is that you get overrides not just for recruiting somebody, but for leading them. And I think that's where a lot of the leaders trying to build an organization like that is where we make the big mistake. Is about leading them.
Yeah, we don't pay anything for just recruiting of a person.
Right.
You recruit that person who becomes a client, and also has a prospect list that they bring with them, and you get to help them start an organization, and they get, and people got to end up getting licensed and trained to sell the products, and it's the production that comes from the recruit that you're overriding. You're not overriding the recruiting. I don't want to be in a business where you're making money just to recruit. That's not the business I'm in. I've never been in a business like that. But all we're trying to do is it's just like if you were running a sales force or an agency. That's all we do. We're bringing a bunch of people into a highly regulated industry. They're going to end up having The great thing about our business is there's no recruiting commissioner, there's no recruiting exam, there's no recruiting experience you got to have. We can start recruiting while they're going through their training. While they're going through their training period to learn how to get a license, the smart guys are going to say, look, if I'm going to have to go take an exam, I'd like to have 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 people in my downline studying and taking the exam with me. So when I end up getting a license to sell insurance, I'm not just out selling insurance as a lone producer. They're going to sell insurance too, and in that system, they're going to pay me overrides off what that licensed person sells. That's what our model is.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, let me just summarize here because I haven't really read it and described the difference between an average success cycle and a maxed out success cycle when building a big organization. The average success cycle basically says that the individual focuses on products, because that drives the sales, and then the sales drives average production. If you drive average production, then you get average promotions. Average promotions build average managers. Average managers earn average cash flow. Average cash flow then drives average career, and the average career has average lifestyle. So everything's average, operating on that paradigm. If you max out the success cycle here is attitude drives prospecting. Prospecting drives recruiting, and recruiting drives promotions. Promotions then drive production. Production drives earnings. Earnings drive wealth, and wealth drives leadership. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, you got to choose which one you want to be. You want to be average and ordinary. You follow an average and ordinary business cycle or so-called success cycle. You want to have a greater chance for success or a smaller chance. You want to make lots of money or a little bit of money? You want to have an average lifestyle, or do you want to have a bigger, better lifestyle? It's out there to be had. It's just, do you want to just fly around in the sky, or do you want to go to the moon? Which one you want to? There's a vehicle that you can get into that will take you wherever you want to be. You just got to choose the right vehicle.
Yeah, so it's just making that paradigm. The way I read it is you either focus on personal sales type and the average cycle here, or you focus on the recruiting side, and that's how you're able to build much, much bigger. Well, I think we'll wrap it up with that, Hubert. I just want to invite our listeners today to start moving into a new paradigm. And to be able to move into a new paradigm, you need to get new information. And how you get the new information? By joining the best opportunity in the nation today, which is Hegemon Group International. If you need to learn, or if you want to learn more about this great opportunity, go right now to hgiopportunity.com. That is hgiopportunity.com. You'd be glad that you did, and you could change from that maybe potential average path you are on to the exponential one, to the one that has unlimited potential. So again, that is hgiopportunity.com. Hubert, I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for coming on this podcast. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks. Glad to be with you.
Warning, this podcast may change the way you think about business, entrepreneurship, and money forever. The Conquistador Podcast was created for dreamers, entrepreneurs, and leaders who want to conquer their future. To be an epic entrepreneur, you must adopt the right mental paradigms as well as master the art of selling, marketing, and finance.